Example 3 says, find the sine of u plus v if the sine of u is equal to 7 over 25, where u is between 0 and pi over 2, and cosine of v is equal to negative 4 over 5, where v is between pi over 2 and pi. So what we need to do to start is we need to create our triangles. So if we know that the sine of u is 7 over 25 and u is between 0 and pi over 2, that tells us that u is in the first quadrant. So I'm going to create my axes here, drawing my triangle in quadrant number 1, which is between 0 and pi over 2. U is my inside angle, and then I'm going to use SOHCAHTOA in order to label my sides. Sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, so 7 over 25. And then I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem to find my third side. So I have 7 squared plus b squared equal to 25 squared. So 7 squared is going to be 49. So I have 49 plus b squared equal to 625. And then I can subtract 49 from both sides, and I get b squared is equal to 576. Take the square root of both sides, and I can see that b is going to be 24. And I want the positive number because I'm in the positive x direction. So I can label this triangle with a side of 24. Then I'm going to do my other triangle, which is a triangle with angle v. So if I set that up, I need to figure out what quadrant it's in, and that's to deal with right here. V is between pi over 2 and pi. Here's pi over 2, and here's pi. So if we're between pi over 2 and pi, we are in the second quadrant. So I'm going to put my triangle in here, and I'm going to label this as triangle V. Using SOHCAHTOA, I have negative 4. Cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. One thing to note, your hypotenuse is never going to take the negative sign. So be very careful if you have a negative number to never put it on that hypotenuse. Then we can use the Pythagorean theorem to get that third side, or if you recognize this is just your special 3, 4, 5 triangle. So I'm going to label this as a 3. If you don't recognize those, it's fine. You can go through and find it on your own. And then what I want to do is I'm going to find the sine of u plus v. So to do that, I'm going to take the formula from the front sheet of the sine of u plus v. Again, this part you do not have to memorize. You'll be given a sheet so that you know sine of u plus v is the sine of u times the cosine of v plus cosine of u. Let's move this over a little bit. Times the sine of v. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start plugging everything in, evaluating it. So what is the sine of u? Well, we know the sine of u. We can get it from up here, which is 7 over 25, or you can get it by looking at your triangle, which is the opposite over the hypotenuse. Either way, we know that the sine of u is 7 over 25, and that's coming from the blue triangle. Times, now we want the cosine of v. Well, that's going to come from our orange triangle. Cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so we're multiplying by negative 4 over 5. Again, that's coming from the orange triangle. Plus, then I want the cosine of u. So coming back to my triangle with the u, cosine is going to be the adjacent over the hypotenuse, or 24 over 25, times the sine of v. V is going to come from the yellow or the orange triangle. And if I have sine, I have the opposite over the hypotenuse, or 3/5. And then what I'm going to do is just do the algebra, simplify everything. Again, order of operations tells me to multiply first. So I'm going to multiply these two fractions together and multiply these two together. To multiply, I multiply the top. 7 times negative 4 gives me negative 28. Actually, let's make that nicer. And in the bottom, I'm going to multiply 25 by 5, which gives me 125. Plus, if I multiply the second one, 24 times 3 will give me 72. And then 25 times 5 again is 125. Now I can add these together because I do have common denominators. So negative 28 plus 72 is 44 over 125. So to sum it up, you're going to take and set up both triangles, one triangle with angle U, one triangle with angle V, and then you're just plugging into the formula that's provided for you. If you have questions on this, let me know.